What's up, man? That was probably the best thing I've ever said before a podcast.
It was. Let her rip, Tater Chip. Sorry, that was a freebie, guys, about the jokes. You know, you got done on that one for free.
Oh man, that's awesome. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing pretty good. Podcast Wednesday.
Podcast Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm. It's, you know, my job this last couple of weeks has been just mostly talking. Which is an interesting job where you're just on the phone or on the computer, as we do in the whatever century we're in.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, you know. I look at my calendar. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be talking all day tomorrow.
Just Zoom calls.
Yeah, Zoom calls all day. You probably know this, but you know, like when you're in a Zoom call and then it's butted up to another meeting, and then the next guy hops in the meeting, like he hops in the room for you to admit him, and you're like, oh wow, we're already here. We're just rolling into it, and then you finish the call, and then how's it going? I haven't just been talking for 2 hours. What's up? Like, it's just like
I just got done working out.
Yeah, I just been eating spaghetti, not talking to somebody. How's it going?
Yeah, and it's exhausting too.
Yeah. I always have to have like a cup of coffee before like my last go, because that one's always like, oh, here we go. Especially if it's like a real salesy call day. It's different muscle you got to flex.
It is, yeah, And there's people. What's crazy is there's people who just thrive off of that sales culture and environment, right? Where they're just like, they could go all day long. They're like, yeah, I got in their call, sweet, right?
Yeah, and I wonder, like, being in a space with other salespeople probably helps with that energy a lot, because
probably
you can like look over at your buddy when you're tired, and he's like, bro, that was great. Like, here, I got another one. Let's get it. And like, you're like, okay, well, we can do this. Where it's just like with one person, it's just like, okay, got another one. And then, but I mean, there's value to that too, right? Like we were talking about digging for ponies last time.
Right.
And it's like, there's still like, okay, I just have to, there's nobody who's like cheering me on, and that's fine. I'll just motivate myself and then learn the skill of self-motivation.
Yeah.
And that'll be better off for it. It'll be cool. We'll work out.
Yeah, man. Find some new cheese over there.
Dude, there's always cheese in my basement. I keep it stocked. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. Dude, I got some new cheese, like legit actual cheese. It's like organic.
Not metaphorical.
Not metaphorical cheese, like real cheese.
Yeah.
It was organic cheddar, like grass-fed cheese.
Yeah.
Dude, it's got like white dust on the outside. And I was a little skeptical. I'm like, okay, you know, it's like aged.
Yeah.
And they got this tiny little block. It was like $12. Ridiculous.
Yeah, of course.
Dude, that stuff was like sour tasting.
You didn't like it?
I know. So what's weird is like I don't want to eat it by itself. Like there's no way I'm gonna go slice cheese, and it was nice and dry. No way I'm gonna go slice that and pop it in my mouth. Too sour. But what's weird is when you melt it. So I melted it on some burgers and some other foods, dude. And it's like, this is good. Like this has flavor, but not until you melt it. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, you apply some heat to it, and then you add it with like something else, and then suddenly, it turns into a whole new thing. Huh?
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if it's like bad because it's got the white on it, and I'm just eating bad
I don't know.
or what. But I got 3 blocks of it, so I'm gonna be eating it for a while.
I got 15 pounds of it, and I'm committed. So you know,
I am. I'm not a quitter, dude.
Yeah, I know you're not. You're gonna eat all that cheese.
Yeah,
keep eating that cheese, man. Cool.
Keep eating that cheese. Today I want to talk about focusing on what you can control instead of focusing on things you can't control.
Okay. I like it. Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I see people, they're looking at their situation and they're like, okay, I'm in a weird situation, or I'm in a bad situation, or, you know, looking just at, it's easy to look at like, oh, there's all these problems over here. Right. Because no matter what, you're going to look at your business and you're always going to see all the problems. Right.
Of course. Yeah.
Like I still see the problems in my business, and I still think like, how are we going to solve these problems? What are we going to do? Right. So you're always going to see all that stuff, and it gets real easy to like try and focus on things that you actually have no control over. So I see a lot of people do this, right?
Mhm.
Instead of focusing on the things that they actually do have control over, where they actually can make a difference, right?
Mhm.
Where they actually can like have
Mhm.
forward movement,
I
and
got you. I'm with you.
forward progression, right?
Mhm.
And so they get stumped up in these areas. They're trying to like control these things that they can't control, and then they end up going nowhere because of it.
Mhm.
So I used to listen to a lot of MXPX, and they have this song.
Mm.
It's called "Going Nowhere Fast,"
Mhm.
and that's what it's like. Just going nowhere
Yeah,
really
sure.
fast. Like they're pedaling and pedaling and pedaling,
Mhm.
and they're pushing and they're pushing and they're pushing and they're trying and they're trying and they're trying, and they're moving really fast, but they're going nowhere, right?
Right.
Because they're focusing on things they have no control over, right?
Huh. Yeah, and then sometimes you can actually trick yourself into thinking that you're making progress because you're focusing so hard.
Oh
And
yeah,
like
totally.
you can be having all these conversations, you can be brainstorming,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, you can't actually affect the change.
Right.
So you're just burning calories doing nothing.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Hmm. So what are the biggest things in your plumbing business that you
I
like
knew
were
you're gonna
focusing
I
on?
knew you're gonna
I
ask me
have
this
to ask that.
question.
Yeah, you
I
got to
knew
bring
you're
it
gonna
down to
ask
the real
this.
world. Got to take
And
the theoretical down to the practical.
dude, and I didn't even think about this yet. All I knew all I knew was, like, people are focusing on things they can't control, like, they gotta stop that.
See, that's why you
Um,
got me here, so we can, get down to brass tacks.
yeah, I had this area or this, like, thought in another area, so let's see if I can transfer it over. So, like, um, for example, what your competition is doing,
Sure.
right? Competition in
Mhm,
general, right? You
mhm,
can go and understand what they're doing and see what they're doing,
mhm.
but at the end of the day, you have zero control over what your competition is doing,
Yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah.
And so for you to expend a bunch of energy on, "Oh,
Mm.
they're doing this," or, "Oh, they're doing that," or, "How do we get them to stop doing this?" or, "How
Mhm.
do we get them to stop doing that?" Right? "Oh,
Mm.
they're doing the same thing we're doing," right?
Mhm.
"We were doing that kind of marketing, now they're doing this kind of marketing.
Mhm.
How do we get them to stop?" Or
Mhm.
just things like that, right?
Mhm.
Um, "We were saying this one thing, to our customers, and now these guys are saying this one thing to our
Sure.
customers."
Yeah.
Like, that's a
Mhm.
bunch of crap and getting all mad, right?
Mhm.
Spending a lot of energy on that kind of stuff when the real like,
Mm.
the thing you should be doing is going you should be looking at it and going,
Mhm.
now they're doing this kind of marketing. How do we make ours even better?"
Right.
Right? How do we make our service even better? How do we make our marketing even better? How do we
Mhm.
make, you know, our technicians even better
Right.
than everybody else? And if you focus on that, now you're just
Mm.
focusing on, like, the things in your business that you can actually effectively change and actually effectively improve, right?
Right.
So, like, in the marketing example, like, if you were a plumbing business and you were doing a certain style of marketing, and then
Mhm.
a competitor in your space saw that kind of marketing, they're like, "Oh, man, those guys are blowing up and they're doing that marketing. I'm gonna go do that same thing," right?
Mhm.
To go and be like, "Dang, they're doing the same marketing. Those guys suck, blah, 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 blah," and get
Mhm.
all mad about it, and then not do anything on the things that you actually can control. Well,
Mhm.
the best way to beat them, right, in that instance, I don't wanna say beat them, but the the best thing for you to go is, "Man, they're doing more marketing. I
Mm.
better up my game over here.
Right.
Okay, can I do more marketing, or can I do the marketing that I'm doing better, or can I spend more money on the marketing I'm already doing? And then since they're trying to move into my space, then I better make my service better than theirs. I don't know what
Right.
they're doing, but I'm gonna make mine the best I possibly can," right?
Right.
And you kinda enter this space eventually to where you're not even looking at your competitors.
Sure, of course.
You don't need to, because you're constantly trying to make yours the best, like,
Right.
better, right? It's a
Mm.
constant improvement of, "Let's make this marketing better. Let's try this new marketing tactic. Let's see if we can spend more here. Let's see if we can make our guys better. Let's see if we can make our service better. Let's make our product
Mhm.
better. It's this continual improvement of everything you're doing in your plumbing company
Mhm.
to where you don't have to focus on the things that you can't control because you're so incredibly focused on the things that you can,
Right.
you know?
And, like, even within that example, it's like focusing, like, noticing what your competition is doing is always where these thoughts start, right? Because if,
Right.
in this example, if the company never noticed it, then they would never have this fuel to put their attention in a certain spot.
Right.
And so it's like, yeah, we'll notice people are doing things and then it'll like spark this emotion in us and we'll feel one way about it. But then the
Mhm.
important thing is to like take that power that that emotion gives and then direct it properly.
Yeah.
Because then if we direct it improperly, then just as you say, you're just spinning your wheels, wasting your time and your life, and your anxiety is way up here and it doesn't need to be. When
Yeah.
you can be like, oh, cool, they're doing a thing. We should probably do a whole bunch of other things and begin to innovate, because
Yes.
what we don't want to do in business is we don't want to just constantly be reacting.
Yeah.
We want to be innovating, because the
Yep.
businesses that can innovate independent of competition will be the businesses that win, because
Yeah.
they say, huh, what's my product doing? How can I innovate this to be better and better and better? And
Yep.
then they think about it. And yeah, sure, you look at what is being done, because there's things that you can like add into your service that you might have
Right.
not thought for. And you go like for marketing, like at Plum Social, we're always trying to figure out like, okay, what can we do to improve this product? What can we add in? And what
Yep.
can we do to sort of like work this to make it better? And we have to look to all these other things to figure that out. And then we see it and we go, oh, cool, let's roll this in. Let's see if that works. And then we start to innovate. But
Yep.
eventually you get enough information that you just start to innovate and you get these new ideas and it starts to make this thing. And as you say,
Mhm.
since you're focused on what you're doing and you're not
Yep.
worrying about anybody else, then at the end of it, you sort of walk out, you're like, we got this cool product.
Yeah.
And then if your competition isn't doing the same thing, like they're just going to be doing what they were doing before. And you're going to
Right.
already be light years ahead just naturally.
Yep.
And I think at the end of it, it's just like, oh, well, that was a cool result. And like the way that I view that situation is like, if we hold resentment within our competitive mindsets, I think it's just stupid. Like it just hurts us. It hurts everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I would almost push that as far as like that competitive mindset, even just being competitive in general, like
Sure.
focusing on your competition and trying to be competitive with them rather than just trying to make yours the best of the best. Right.
Yeah.
Because true competition is won by you being better.
Right.
Right.
Like, oh, dude. And that's actually, that brings up like true competition is won by being better. And this is evidence why we all hate cheaters.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a cheater.
Yeah.
And so people win Olympic, let's just put the easiest example, like a foot race, right?
Yep.
Me and Jared are on a race. Like the best, strongest person is going to win until I like trip Jared and then I win. But everybody
Yep.
would be like, Joel, you just tripped Jared. Like that's not
Right.
fair. And I'd be like, well, I won though, didn't I? Like I got to the destination, sure, but I didn't do it in
Mhm.
a way that made sense.
Mhm.
And so at the end of the day, like focusing on yourself and becoming better and stronger and faster in this analogy, or a better, more robust plumbing company by doing
Yep.
all these things because you're focused on yourself,
Yep.
you'll beat the competition because you were just better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which
Totally.
I would feel better about that, knowing that like, man, I'm doing my best to be as good as I can.
Yeah.
And I succeeded on that. I didn't have to do anything else.
Yeah.
I didn't have to like push this guy down so that I could raise myself up. I
Yep.
just worked hard and raised myself up. It was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like the path that I took with my plumbing company. I didn't know what other people were doing in town. I didn't bother to know what they were charging. I didn't bother to know what services they were using, like what marketing they were doing, what kind of software they were doing, how they were charging their customers, how they were taking care of their customers, what they were saying about us. Didn't care. I solely focused on like, how do I make my product the
Mm,
best that I possibly can? And that was a long process of just continually doing stupid stuff and then going, okay, how do we not do that again? How do we make this better? Like, how do we stop
right.
that from happening? Or,
Mhm.
man, I just found this cool new, product that will make our services much better to the end customer. Cool, let's add that
Mhm.
in. Let's make it better,
Mhm.
you know? Um, and then even like after I hired a GM and he kind of took control of the day to day, then it really was like game on of like starting to look at this thing, really dig into the numbers and the analytics and going, how do we make this even better? Right?
Yeah.
How do we make this
Mhm.
so good?
Mhm.
Better experience for the customer and makes more money and
Hmm.
runs like a machine, right?
Right.
And and all of that, like I never once focused on my competition. I only
Mm.
focused on myself. And you know what? Like if anybody was to come to me in my area, I actually had people come to me, like other plumbing business owners. I told them everything I knew. Everything.
Hmm.
I gave other people my hourly rate calculators. I was like, "Dude, you gotta charge more," right?
Mhm.
Told them what kind of marketing I was doing. Told them to go talk to my marketing guy, who happens to be my
Mhm.
brother. Dude, he'll hook you up.
Mhm.
He'll do a good job, right? Um,
Mhm.
not really a competitive bone in my body in that manner, and that's always served me well. Like, those people
Hmm.
really appreciated the advice. They all, were able to run a better plumbing company. Um,
Mhm.
none of them did it as good as I did, even though I told them how to. And, you
That's
know,
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
to this day, we're still,
Huh.
we probably pull in more money than any other plumbing company in town. I guarantee it.
Yeah, that's a good thing to remember in this conversation is the tools don't actually work by themselves.
Right.
It's always the operator. I mean, this is the
Yep.
easiest, like anybody can understand this, like just from the very raw plumber perspective. Like, Jared, you and I can both go get a cool plumbing tool, but you're going to work it a lot better than I can.
Yep.
100,000,000%.
Yep.
And just because we have all the tricks of the trade at our disposal doesn't mean that we'll use it. So it's like, why not be like, if you're asked, right? It's not that you go out there and you just like shoot it from the mountaintop, but if someone's like, hey man, like, what do you do? Like, oh yeah, this is what I do. And it's
Yeah.
worked really well.
Yep.
And you can just win a lot of like, oh, I don't know. At the end of the day, you can just be a very helpful individual in your community.
Yeah.
And then there's more successful business and it's just better for everybody. And then you can be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm winning because I am doing this really, really well.
Yep.
Like I am an expert at my craft. Everybody we're on an even playing field and I'm still ahead.
Yep.
So I'm actually contributing to this.
Yep.
And I think what's like a really good example about your plumbing business that I've always known, but it just occurred to me is out of a lot of businesses that I know and I talk to, it's like you are very removed from your business, but your
Yeah.
business is still just kicking.
Yep.
And so like to all the listeners listening, like Jared is not competing in that way. Like you say, he doesn't have a competitive bone in his body. And yet his plumbing company is incredibly competitive, we'll say. Like
Yeah.
it is doing very well. But he's
Yep.
participating an hour a week, 2 hours a week, maybe.
Yep.
And that's it. Like he's not in the
Yeah.
trenches anymore.
Yep.
And so it's like, I mean, we pick our paths, right? We can choose to be hyper competitive or whatever, and we can choose to be very generous with our information. But Jared's a great example of somebody who is generous and you've arrived at the place where everybody wants, right?
Yep.
Like you got the pony dog, and
Yeah. And
you're
I honestly believe that, like, you can give everybody the information, but the implementation is a whole different thing, right?
right.
Like for me to give them the information, then to take that information and go implement it is much harder. It's easy
Yeah.
to digest and understand the information, but at the end of the day, most people aren't willing to put in the work to actually implement the information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I got no problem giving anybody all of my secrets, right? Even if they're my
Mm-hmm.
next door neighbor in my same town. Like, how are you
Mm-hmm.
doing this? I've had people ask me. I'll give them all my info. What do you want to
Mm-hmm.
know? Right? Because honestly, I want to see them succeed. And then I think it'd be really cool to have another plumbing company, even in our really small market. Like, I'm in a really small market. If we could
Mm-hmm.
have other people charging, a high dollar amount and hopefully start to increase everybody's hourly rate, that'd be really cool to where we're all more on a level playing field. Like, I'm the
Mm-hmm.
most expensive plumber in town by a long shot.
Right.
We're probably 3 times what everybody else is,
Mm-hmm.
but yet we get the most amount of work. and we bring in the most
Mhm.
amount of revenue, right?
Mhm.
It'd be nice to level that playing field. It'd be nice if another person came up in my community and started running a good plumbing business that actually charged what they're worth. It'd be
Right.
cool. And like for people who are in huge communities, right? There's probably more than enough room for you and a competitor. More than
Right.
enough. Like
Mhm.
I remember watching this video of, I think it went viral on like TikTok or Instagram or something. Somebody yelled at these two guys. They were on vacation and they were like, they had drinks in their hands. Maybe they had drinks in their hands or not. I don't know. And they were like, "Hey, what do you guys do?" And they both were plumbing business owners.
Mhm.
And the one guy was like, "Yeah, I made, $3 million last year." And the other guy was like, "Yeah, this guy, he's my next door neighbor. He's in the same market. And he taught me everything he knows. And we
Mhm.
both make a ton of money in the same market." And I was like, "That's
Mhm.
rad." And I actually
Yeah.
became friends on Facebook with that guy like a couple of years later. It's kind
Mhm.
of funny. Yeah.
Huh. That is funny.
Yeah. And I know he ended up selling, I don't know how much for. I'm sure he sold for lots of millions of dollars, right? So I
Mhm.
think they both were able to grow and scale really large plumbing businesses right next to each other, collaborating.
Mhm. Right.
And then both ended up selling for lots and lots of money.
Right.
And I think,
Yeah.
like I honestly think, in that
Mhm.
collaboration, I bet they both taught each other things that helped both of them succeed, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And like I think about that in my market, like how cool it would be to have another viewpoint in the market that I
Mhm.
was comfortable to go talk to, where we could
Mhm.
collaborate and I could say, "Hey, look, dude, I'm really busy. Can I send my work your way?"
Right.
And vice versa. Or like, "Hey, dude, you
Mhm.
do this one thing really, really well where I lack in that area in my business. How about we collaborate here and like anybody who wants this kind of stuff, I send them to you,
Mm.
and anybody that wants this kind of stuff, you send them to me." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be it. I would be totally down with that. It'd be
Yeah.
very, very welcome. But instead, like with my plumbing business, we run into this area where, we don't do certain types of work and then we don't have anybody to recommend the customer to. So
Sure.
the customer just ends up being stuck. And the reason we don't do
Yeah.
that type of work is because it's, we have enough of the type of work that we do, and
Mhm.
it's easier work. So it's easier to be profitable at it. So the work that's
Right.
hard to do, that is less profitable, we just don't do it. And then
Right.
we don't have anybody to send it to,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's I think that's like, to me, that seems to be like a really strong metric of like which way is better. And it's like, okay, you're a plumbing business, your goal is to serve the customer the best.
Yep.
If you're hyper competitive to where you isolate yourself from everybody else,
Mhm.
in that scenario, the customer is the one who's going to pay the price at the end of the day.
Right.
Because if you can't serve them for whatever reason, then they go to a company and they won't get served as well as they could have been. But
Right.
if you're in a collaborative environment, then at the end of the day, the person who you care about the most, the customer, is the one who actually benefits.
Yep.
Because then if you had somebody you could send your calls to, you're still doing the customer service. Yeah, you don't
Yep.
take that revenue, but that customer is still going to appreciate that. Oh, I'm in a network of people who
Yeah.
really care about my own interests.
Yep.
Like, think about it like a doctor. Like, what if doctors were hyper competitive with one another and they never referred work out? And
Right.
so you said, "Hey, doc, I need a surgery." And the doctor's like, "Nope, sorry, no can do. Nobody in town does that." Even though you know there was somebody in town who does it. And the doctor's
Mhm.
like, "Nah, dude, I could give it I could give it a go if you want, or maybe just like we can't do it." Like, that would be
Yeah.
we wouldn't want that.
Right.
And so we're happy when doctors refer us out to other specialists. And
Yep.
I want all my doctors to talk to each other so that they
Mhm.
can know how to care for me the best.
Yeah.
So to me, like, that model can transfer to other places of business where people
Yeah.
can like communicate
Yeah, and I
so
think it
that the
really
customer can
boils.
be served.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. Like, as a business owner, you should always have in mind what your customer's best interests are. Maybe not like what's best for their pocketbook, right? But what's best
Sure.
for how they're going to get served, right?
Mhm.
Because most people are willing to pay absurd amounts of money for to be served, to have their problem solved, right? To
Right.
get their time back, to get their day back, to be
Mhm.
served in a real sense, right?
Mhm.
And so what they really care about is being served. And so if you can focus your business and focus your attention on serving the customer
Mm.
and providing the best possible service, and
Mm.
that be your
Mhm.
focus, right? Regardless
Mhm.
if that's this guy over here that serves them or this plumbing business over here that ends up serving the customer, um, you're going to be much better off in the long run if
Yeah.
your main focus is on serving the customer
Yes.
rather than making a short buck today or
Yes.
trying to compete with this guy or
Yes.
worrying about that kind of stuff.
Right.
That's going back to our original point. Like that's something you can control in your business. You can
Yeah.
control if you decide to serve the customer and have their best interest at heart.
Mhm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, dude. I like it, man. Customer first.
Customer first, always, every time.
Always. Every time. It's the prospector promise.
No, we're happy.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Optimistic even.
Yeah, super optimistic.
Cool, man. Well, thanks.
Cool, man.
See you
Thanks,
next
dude.
week.
See you, Holmes.